In this video, we're going to be learning about how to simplify expressions. An expression and equation, the difference between those two, an expression does not have an equal sign. So as I look at this expression, it's not equal to anything, whereas an equation would be like 2x equals 4. So it is equal to something. So this here is an example of an equation where what we're working with in today's lesson is our expressions. Okay, and so we can simplify them so they just look a little bit nicer. Some things we're going to be using here are different properties of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So here in this one, we're going to be using what is called the associative property to combine like terms. 3a to the fourth and 2a to the fourth, we call those like terms because they're both being associated with a to the fourth. So it's kind of like if I have 3 apples and I have 2 apples, how many apples do I have? Well, I have 5a to the fourth, or 5 apples for that example, minus 6ab. Okay, so then when we look for that example, again, this was a positive, so we just added it to get 5. So C would be our best choice. Okay, for this one, indicate which property is illustrated in step 5. Well, you know what? I think it'd be good for us to go through all of the different properties being illustrated here, and then as we do that, we will get to step 5 and answer our question. So as we look here in step 1, so this is, normally we follow order of operations, so parentheses, then exponents, then multiplication and division, then addition and subtraction. We often say PEMDAS. We group the multiplication and division together and the addition and subtraction together. However, we can use properties of arithmetic and multiplication in order to do things in a different order, and it's still, considered legal, I guess, as opposed to not being able or not allowed to do it. So 4x plus 2 plus 9x plus 2, since we're putting parentheses around the grouping here, what we're doing there is the associative property, okay? And so I'm going to just abbreviate that with associative here. It would be spelled like this down below, but that is the associative property because we're grouping them together to kind of create maybe a better situation for us. The next step, in this situation, notice the order is not changing at all. So 4x is still in the same spot, the 2 is in the same spot, 9x and 2. Everything's in the same spot, we're just grouping it differently. So again, this is an example of the associative property. Usually whenever we're just moving the parentheses around, that's an example of the associative property. Okay, now for our next step, the 4x is in the same spot, but notice how we move the 9x and the 2 around, and then this 2 is in the same spot. So when we do that, that no longer is the associative property, we are showing and demonstrating the commutative property right there. The commutative property says that we can add in any order, and we can also multiply in any order. So the commutative property, spelled right here, is both for addition and multiplication. The next step, you see that we are now keeping it in the same order as the last step, and we are throwing around those grouping symbols again. So I would say that this is now another example of the associative property. Okay, now we're down to step 5, and this is what our question is actually asking. Step 5, it says 4 plus 9, and now we have the x outside. So really we kind of took these two x's and we moved it out here. Okay, and so now it sits right there. We didn't do anything over here, but what this is showing here, kind of how I have these lines kind of going outside, that is the distributive property. Okay, normally we think about doing that the other way around where we distribute inside the parentheses, but when we pull something out of the parentheses, something that's common to both, that is also an example of the distributive property. So our answer here then is A, the distributive property. And then step 6 is just kind of following order of operations. We're just doing what's inside the parentheses. we're doing what's inside the parentheses there, and so that's how we would simplify that down. So this original expression actually gets simplified down to that using these different properties: associative, associative, commutative, associative again, then distributive, and then we have our answer following order of operations. So moving on. So which one is equivalent to this expression? So now we get to do the distributive property the other way. So let's distribute throughout the parentheses. So 4 times 5 is 20x. 4 times 4 is 16. So we'll say plus because we have a plus sign there. So 16. And then we have plus 4x. So again, we did what's inside the parentheses there first. We dealt with that. Now I have like terms, okay? So it's like I have 20x and 4x, so together I have 24x plus 16, and so my choice then is C. Okay, so now again we have to follow those order of operations. Parentheses has to be done first, and I notice inside the parentheses I have an exponent, so I'm going to rewrite this thing. I'm going to go 2 to the third power minus 8 times 25, because 5 times 5 is 25. That's going to be multiplied by 10, and then we subtract the 36. So 2 cubed minus, and now I have to actually multiply inside of here first. Well, I know that 4 quarters equals $1, so 8 quarters are going to be $2, or 200, times 10 minus 36. And then so 2 cubed minus, I have to do the multiplication first. Actually, if I wanted to, I could do this exponent right now at the same time. So let's go ahead and do that. It won't hurt us to do this at the same time. So let's change that to an 8. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, minus 2,000, and then minus 36. Now, finally, we can do our subtraction. So if I take 8 minus 2,000, and we always do subtraction from left to right. So 8 minus 2,000 is negative 1992 minus another 36. Gives us a grand total of negative 2028, or choice D. Okay, so that's kind of walking through our order of operations, again, following parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, then addition, subtraction. Okay, so again, here we need to distribute the 5, so we're going to get 15y, and then we have a plus, so we'll keep that as a positive, and we'll do 10z minus 10z. Well, what's going to happen to our 10z's? If we have a positive 10z and a negative 10z, we're just left with the 15y, or choice D. Okay, again, we need to do parentheses first. So let's take 79 minus 3 times 2 to the 4th power. Now we do our exponents next. So 2 to the 4th power is actually going to give us 16. And we copy everything else down. 79 minus 3 times 16. Now we have to do multiplication next. So 3 times 16 is going to give us 48. We bring everything else down. There's minus 79. Notice how you're trying to keep things in order here. 79 minus 48. Make sure you do that in the correct order, otherwise you get a negative. And our answer is positive 31. Okay, now again we need to distribute first. Notice here that we do have a negative sign inside. 5 times 7 gives us 35, and then y times y, we also have to consider that. That's going to be y squared, because y times y is y squared, just like 2 times 2 is 4, 2 squared. So 5 times 7 is 35, y times y is y squared. Now, we are going to have a negative times a positive, so I'm going to go ahead and get a subtraction symbol ready there. And 5 times 6 is 30, and then we have the y still, and then we have the plus 28y on the end. Okay, now, we think about like terms. These two are alike each other. However, this one is different because it's not just y, it's y squared. So it is different. So I'm going to keep that 35y squared all by itself. So if I was going to look at these answers, B would not be a good choice because it changed, you know, they combined all of these things together, which we don't want to do. So also I'm looking here, all of my items have a variable with them, so A is not a good choice either. So I'm trying to decide here, is this going to be negative or is this going to be positive? Well, Thinking about my absolute values, okay, the absolute value of negative 30 is greater than the absolute value of 28, so I know my answer should be a negative, and the difference between 30 and 28 is 2y, okay, so it is subtraction, and there was subtraction because this number right here has a greater absolute value, okay, the absolute value of negative 30 is greater than the absolute value of 28, so therefore our answer needs to be negative, okay? Simplify the following expression, okay? We don't have any letters in here, so we just need to follow order of operations. First things first, we have to take care of our parentheses. So let's change that to a 5, and then we kind of copy everything else down. So keeping everything just how it is. My writing's a little bit bigger than the printed version. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this exponent as well because it has nothing to do with this parenthesis over here, so I'm going to kind of take care of two things there. You want to be careful when doing that, but as long as they're separated by enough space, we can go ahead and do that. Now, here I'm going to do multiplication, and I'm going to take care of this division. Now, again, the reason why you can do these two steps both in the same turn is because they're separated by addition and there's subtraction over here. So we can go ahead and take care of that multiplication division all at once. So let's go 18 plus 1 minus 5. Okay, now we do addition and subtraction from left to right, just like we did multiplication division from left to right. So change this to a 19 minus 5, and then we're going to get our 14 for our answer. Again, order of operations, got to follow them. Okay, simplify the expression. So I have to distribute this 1/2 not to just two things, but actually all the way through. So basically I got to take half of everything. So 8y is going to change to 4y, and 24z is going to be 12z, and 24y is going to be 12y. Now notice the addition symbols all stayed the same because this was a positive 1/2, so I didn't have to change anything inside. Now, combining like terms, I have a y here and a y here, so it's like 4 y's and 12 y's, that's going to make 16y plus 12z. Okay, so we look through here, 16y plus 12z, that looks to be choice A, and that's it for today.